Welcome to the Crack House Chronicles, your favorite true crime podcast. I am Donnie, and with me is a man that wants to know, is it still considered binge drinking if you do it every night? It's Dale.
Things to ponder.
Never
thought about it.
I just wonder.
I guess not.
No, it wouldn't be, would it?
No. I guess if you had to not binge and then binge, or did an unbinge.
I guess it's...
It's a whole lot of binging.
Yeah, I guess it just depends on...
The level of binge?
Yeah, and somebody's perspective on it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. What's going on, dude?
Well, that got deep quick, didn't it?
It did. What's going on today?
Oh, you know, same old, same old.
Same old, same old. Still haven't put that on a shirt.
I know it. We're working on it.
We're working on it.
Yeah. Working
Working on some good stuff. You got any good shout-outs or anybody you want to talk about before we get going, dude?
Hey, we got a few things going on.
Man.
How about that? We got a brand new Apple Podcast 5-star review coming up here. This is from Frank 1043.
Frank.
Yeah, great story. I don't know what this is underneath, but it says anyway. Great story. Oh, okay, I get it. Never mind. Just cut that. Great story, but stay away from the pulp vat. Great job, guys. I love the time and effort you both put into each episode. This comes from the retired chief.
Well,
how about that?
Well, thank you, Chief.
And speaking of retired chiefs, we'd like to shout out to our folks for this is actually Law Enforcement Week. So shout out to David James, Mark Davis, and our Sheriff Alan Norman and the whole Cleveland County Sheriff's Department. Let's give a little shout out for Law Enforcement Week as we record. And also, and happy birthday to our friend and fan of the show, Paul Diano, former Iron Maiden vocalist.
Man.
Happy 66 there, Paul.
Wow. Happy birthday, dude.
66. Good number.
Yeah.
Especially for Paul.
Oh, yeah. Very, very cool.
Right.
Yeah. You might want to be like Frank. I don't know if actually Frank could even type that in, but that's something we know. But anyway, if anybody wants to be like Frank, they can go to Apple Podcast and click on that 5-star, and they can write something in that box, and it will give us a notification, and you can get a shout out.
That's right, and it helps us so much.
Man, it really does. It gets us more attention. People will find us, and
it makes it easier to spread the word.
Yes, it does.
Per se.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just remind too that we got stuff on the store page. We got some T-shirts and mugs and different stickers and whatnots to get on there. You can help keep the lights on that way, or
yeah,
you can just tell a friend.
You can telephone or tell a friend.
You can. And that every way helps.
Or you can just drop by the website and hit the gas money button if you want to just drop a few bucks in that.
Yep.
That also helps out a lot.
Yep.
Believe it or not.
And you can go to our Patreon and listen to our episodes. They come out a day early. You can listen to them ad-free at any time.
Yep.
So that's a good little way to support us too.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
All right, that's enough hawking.
Yeah. We'll get into this episode, dude, because I'm tell you, man, we got a nasty one.
Man, we've done some before, but I'm telling you, this might take the cake.
Yeah, and this is a lesser-known serial killer, man.
Right.
But I don't know why.
I don't either.
No, because he's vicious.
I think they were scared to make this movie.
Yeah. Where do you go?
Good Lord.
Yeah.
You can't make this stuff up.
But we're talking about a guy by the name of Randy Kraft.
Randy Kraft.
Randy Steven Kraft. And just a little bit of background on Randy Kraft. Dale, he was born in Long Beach, California on March the 19th in 1945. And he was the fourth child and only son of Opal Lee and Harold Kraft.
Well.
Yeah, he had older sisters. And Kraft's father had moved to California from Wyoming. It was weeks after World War II had started. And he got a job there as a production operative at Douglas Aircraft Company. Yeah. And he was joined later by his wife and their 3 daughters.
I'm assuming that means moved to California, not working at the aircraft company.
Exactly.
Right.
But the Kraft family, it was described as them living a pretty modest life.
Yeah.
Randy's mom, she would take several jobs to help supplement the income, and she got a job as an assembly line worker, and she was employed as a seamstress.
Mm-hmm. At the Westminster Garment Factory.
Okay. And he even got a job as a cook in a school. So I guess a lunchroom lady.
Yeah, lunchroom lady.
Yeah.
That's always cool.
That's what we call them here, yeah.
We always dig the lunchroom lady.
Man, be nice to them. They give you extra food. And I'll give you the piece of burnt pizza that was on the corner there that had the burn on it.
That kills you, don't it?
I always got that piece of pizza.
I've heard that story so many times.
Yeah, I'd go through the line, and
I'm like,
they would see me coming and grab that corner piece that had the burn crust around the edge of it.
You wake up in a cold sweat with that burnt piece of pizza.
Oh, yeah. I never got the nice center piece of pizza, but anyway. Yeah, she was working as a lunchroom lady, but Randy's mom, dude, she always found time for the kids. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was doing for them and helping them. She was even involved with the PTA. But Randy's dad, he was just the opposite.
Yeah. He didn't care nothing about it.
No, he was. It was described as he was being distant,
right,
from the family.
He didn't go. He didn't want to go to no social gatherings or anything like that.
No. But as a child, Randy was doted on by his 3 older sisters and mom.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Well, they finally got their little boy, you know.
Yeah, but Randy was known to be accident prone.
Here we go.
Yeah, he'd had a number of accidents, and at one point, as a toddler, he had fell down some steps.
Some cement steps.
Yes. And had a pretty nasty head injury. He was actually unconscious for a while.
Right.
Yeah. And that may play into part of the story.
It may, but it didn't seem like it bothered his intelligence anyway.
No, because he was pretty intelligent.
Excuse me.
He was pretty intelligent growing up.
I got to grab my water. Fred's one over here. I'll just drink a beer or whatever's in here.
There's some stuff. There's a few things in there.
Choking up. Oh, yeah. Yeah, thank you. Pretty good there. Oh, shit. Right, sorry.
Okay, figure out where I was. But let me start right here. Now, as a child, Randy was doted on by his 3 sisters and his mom. But he was known to be accident prone, dude.
Yes.
Yeah. At one point, as a toddler, he had fell down some steps.
Yeah, some cement steps. So, here we go.
Yeah. And he'd had a pretty good head injury.
Yeah, kind of nasty, yeah.
And even knocked out for a little while.
Right.
Yeah. And that may play into some stuff later on.
Yeah, it may, but it's kind of odd, because he's really intelligent young guy.
Yeah, he was very intelligent, just the way he was described.
Mm-hmm.
And in 1948, the Kraft family moved from Long Beach to Midway City in neighboring Orange County. But the home they had there was small. It was a wood-framed Women's Army Corps dormitory. That's what they moved into.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I'd like to see a picture of that. But they moved into a dorm.
It's like a little 3-bedroom house, it says.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or they renovated it. My bad. Yeah, they would be small, but it's I think they had renovated it to make it like a 3-bedroom house. So can you imagine taking a little dorm and turning it into a 3-bedroom?
I guess if you're thrifty like that, you can do it and be frugal and make it work.
I guess. Well, being a dormitory, I guess it's not like a one-room, huh? It's like it'd be like the whole thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the family, they became active in the Westminster First Presbyterian Church. And Randy's mom, she was rising to the chairman of the Deacons Committee.
I bet his daddy didn't go.
No, he probably didn't. No.
He didn't go to nothing.
He didn't do anything like that. And there in Midway City, Randy attended Midway City Elementary School, where his mom was a member of the PTA, like we said. Mm-hmm. And as a student, his intelligence was noted by his classmates and his teachers. So like we said, he was very, very smart.
Yeah, and by 1957, he was already in all accelerated classes, even in junior high school.
Yeah, and he was attending the 17th Street Junior High School at that time.
Nice name.
Yeah. I guess that was on 17th Street.
I assume it would.
Yeah.
would be.
But now, as a teenager, Randy had taken an interest in politics, Dale.
Mm-hmm.
And he was becoming a big-time Republican.
This is wild to me, being a teenager and into it.
Yeah.
But, I guess it's about kind of war stuff, wartime stuff going
and
on.
He was even aspiring to become a U.S. Senator.
Which is wild.
Yeah, as a teenager, that blows my mind.
It does me, too. But if anybody had any sense, that'd be a good job because you don't do nothing, just get paid a lot of money.
Yeah.
Well, you don't get paid a lot of money, but you end up with a lot of money somehow.
Somehow or another. You go in poor and come out rich.
Yeah, it blows my mind.
But shortly after Randy's enrollment at Westminster High School, he and two of his close friends, they founded a club together. It was the Westminster World Affairs Club. So they even started their own club.
Sounds fancy.
And at Westminster High, Randy was again regarded as a pleasant, bright kid who was getting good grades. Yeah. And he was known to occasionally date girls, and it was even at one point some of his classmates and his teachers later stated that they suspected Randy could be homosexual.
Well, he might be.
Yeah.
But he was going out with his friends and they were doing the thing, hitting up the girls and stuff, even though he wasn't really interested, but he was playing it off.
Yeah. And Randy later stated he had known from his high school days that he was homosexual.
Yeah.
Although he kept his sexual orientation a secret.
Right.
And
Which in the 60s, I get it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Now, on June the 13th of 1963, Randy graduated 10th in his class of 390 students.
Pretty impressive.
That's very impressive, dude. Yeah. And with that, he was able to get a scholarship, and he enrolled at Claremont Men's College in Claremont, California. And that's where he pursued a Bachelor of Arts degree in economics.
In economics.
Yeah. So he was on his way, in his mind, to becoming a senator.
Yeah. He was knocking it down, man.
That was what he was wanting to do. So shortly after getting there to Claremont, Randy enrolled in the ROTC. This is the Reserve Officers Training Corps. And he regularly attended demonstrations in support of the Vietnam War.
Right, which is pretty rare. You don't even hear about that. You always see the rallies against. You don't ever really see them showing rallies from that time period for the war.
But he was supporting it.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah. And he was even attending campaign rallies for Republican presidential candidate Barry Goldwater.
Yeah.
And he later declared these actions were merely a simulation of his parents' political views.
Yeah.
And not his own.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
And describing his second year at Claremont as being when he abandoned his conservative ideology. He was getting away from that Republican views.
He was jumping away from conservatism.
He was. And that same year, Randy entered into his first known homosexual relationship.
Right.
Yeah. So in 1964, Randy began working as a bartender at a local Garden Grove cocktail lounge.
Right. It was like a gay bar.
Yeah, it was. And he was also known to regularly travel to Laguna Beach and Huntington Beach. And there he would have casual sex with some, I guess, strange men that he'd meet there.
They were just having hookup sections. With no strings, whatever. They just go, that's what they were doing.
Yeah.
And apparently there was a lot of them. Not just him.
Yeah. There was other people looking for it too.
Right. That was the place to go if that's what you're looking for. And you would find it.
Yeah. And during this time, Randy would occasionally take male friends home with him to meet his family.
Yeah.
There in Claremont.
Yeah. He didn't say what these male friends were. He was just kind of hoping they would catch on.
Yeah, but they were obviously oblivious to it.
Yes.
They didn't catch on.
No.
So in 1966, Randy was arrested, Dale, and he was charged with lewd conduct, and this is where he was propositioning an undercover police officer there in Huntington Beach.
Right.
But Randy, he had no previous criminal record, and there were no charges filed.
Yeah, but that scared him pretty bad.
Oh, yeah, I think it did.
Yeah.
So that following year, Randy, he developed a radical shift.
So he fully just jumping aisles.
Yeah. He went from one side to the other.
Hard.
In his political beliefs.
Yes.
He became a Democrat.
Yeah.
And his liberal views changed, and he eventually registered as a Democrat in 1967. And he became a Democratic Party organizer. And that's where he began campaigning for the election of Robert F. Kennedy.
Right. Even Robert F. Kennedy actually even sent him a personal letter thanking him for his efforts.
He did.
In trying to get him elected.
That's a pretty big deal.
Wow, yeah. I'd like to have a letter autographed by
Robert F. Kennedy?
Yeah.
Yeah. And by his senior year there in college, Randy had become
Lazy.
Very lazy student.
Yeah.
He was drinking, taking drugs. He would attend all-night gambling and poker sessions with some of his buddies and other students.
So he's just screwing off.
Yeah.
For lack of a better term.
I guess he thought he had it made and had all of his stuff in a row that he didn't have any problem.
I think that happens to a lot of people who are super smart and everything's really easy for them. Eventually they just kind of get bored with it. Not really lazy, I guess, just like, well, they start to get into other things. They kind of get bored with what they're doing and then meet up with a couple friends. Next thing you know, they're drinking, doing drugs, and staying up all night gambling and playing poker.
Yeah, but him doing this, I guess he thought that he had it made and he could just cruise on through and graduate. But,
right, yeah.
But all this slacking he was doing, it resulted in him being actually failing to graduate.
Yeah, he failed a class.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
the thing was, the class that he had to make up wasn't given again for 8 months.
So he had
to wait 8 months to take that to graduate.
Exactly.
But he did.
Yeah, he ended up graduating.
Yeah, in February of '68.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's when he graduated from Claremont Men's College with a Bachelor of Arts degree in economics.
Right.
Yep. So 4 months after graduating from college, Randy joined the United States Air Force.
Right. Now, about this, we had seen where it said that he was actually drafted, but he had asked for
A deferment.
A deferment to not have to go to after he graduated from college. So once he graduated, and even though now he was against the war and against all this stuff, he still had to go.
Yeah.
So he joined the Air Force.
That's right.
Or they joined him to the Air Force, however that works. And that's what happened there. But it's kind of odd.
Yeah, they joined him or he joined them.
Yeah, whatever. He had to go.
Yeah. And he was sent to
Remember, this is Vietnam time, right?
Yeah. And he was sent to basic training in Texas before being stationed at Edwards Air Force Base in Southern California, where he supervised the painting of test planes. Yeah.
Edwards Air Force Base. Is that where...
Edwards Air Force Base?
Yeah, is that where I Dream of Jeannie? Is that where they were?
Oh, I don't know. Could have been.
I should have looked it up before. Anyway, you can cut that out. Go ahead.
Okay. Now, during his service there in the Air Force, Randy rose to the rank of Airman First Class and Supervising Manager. So he was well on his way, dude.
He was?
Yeah. And that same year that Randy became an Airman First Class, this is when he disclosed to his family that he was homosexual.
Right.
And in a letter he wrote to a friend, Randy described his father as flown into a rage.
You think?
Yeah. Whereas his mom, she was more understanding.
Right.
But kind of disapproving, but more understanding.
Well, I think she was kind of hoping it was just a
thing.
A thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think his sisters were flipping out, and they were blaming it on going to the all-men's college.
Stuff
like that. But, it is what it is.
And I think his sisters actually became distant to him, too.
Right.
Yeah. So on July the 26th in 1969, Randy announced his sexual orientation to his superiors there in the Air Force.
Yeah. This ain't going to be good.
Not in 69, no.
No.
And this was when he was granted a general discharge after only 13 months of service. I think he knew what was going to happen.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah.
I think that's why he told him.
He wanted out.
Even though he acted like he really liked it, wanted to stay there. I mean, he was bored there too. He didn't want to watch somebody paint a plane.
No.
He was just trying to get out of there.
But his dismissal was officially listed as being on medical grounds.
Yeah, he didn't like that.
No, he wanted to say he was homosexual.
I guess so.
Yeah. He'd even got the legal advice from an attorney to challenge this on his medical records, but
he wasn't going to change it.
It was denied on that.
Air Force says, nah.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
But after his discharge, Randy moved back into his parents' home, and he got a job as a bartender.
Yeah.
So we're moving up to March of 1970.
Yes, sir.
And this is where Randy encountered a 13-year-old Westminster. His name was Joseph Alvin Fancher.
Mm-hmm.
And this was at Huntington Beach. And this Fancher explained to Randy that he had run away from home that day.
Yeah, so, Kraft's doing,
Yeah. And Randy invited him back to his apartment.
Right.
Promising him he could live with him and offer him
sex with a woman, and he could do all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, just have a good life.
He's just making it sound good.
So this Fancher agreed, and he
13-year-old.
Yeah, he agreed, and he accompanied Randy to his Belmont Shore apartment where he was drugged and beaten.
Yeah. Well, Randy got there and he just kept feeding him liquor, or I think it was drinking wine actually. Feeding him wine, and then when he said he had a headache, he was giving him pills and stuff. So yeah, he drugged him up pretty good.
He did, and repeatedly sexually assaulted him for hours.
Yeah.
And Fancher was able to escape the apartment after Randy said he had to go to work.
Well, what happened is the kid woke up the next day and he kind of was all fuzzy, didn't know what was going on. He woke up and he was naked in a bed and didn't know where he was, kind of, and he's like, then all of a sudden this guy comes walking out of the shower into the living room and goes, "Well, I'm going to work." And so the guy's walks out, and somebody comes up later beating on the door, and the guy gets scared and he's hollering, he's looking for Randy. Then he leaves, and then the kid gets out of the apartment and runs across the street to where there's a bar and talks to them. So then lets them know what's going on, and they call the police. Yeah,
and they also call the emergency medical personnel too. And
correct.
This kid was taken to the hospital, and he needed his stomach pumped.
Yeah, because he had so much drugs in the system.
Yeah, they said if he had taken any more at all, it would have probably killed him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when he was at the hospital, the kid did inform the cops that Kraft had given him drugs and beaten him, but he did not disclose to his parents or the police that he had been sexually assaulted. He didn't want nobody to know, and he didn't know if anybody would believe him anyway. So that was never even brought up.
Mm-mm.
And then the police went over and searched Kraft's apartment when they took him back across the road to let him know where he had been held. And they found a lot of stuff. They found pictures, pornographic pictures of Randy with other people having sex and all kind of stuff. And then found a bunch of pills and all that stuff. So they knew that's where it's come, but they had searched without a warrant. So they couldn't really do nothing. None of that was admissible.
Yeah.
And then without the knowledge of him being sexually assaulted, no charges were filed.
That's right.
Which is crazy to me. So this just starts out just like any other of these, well, not any of them, but most of these things where, like, he's almost got caught one time doing some stuff here, don't get in trouble, gets away. Here we go.
Yeah. And we're moving up to 1971. This is where Randy found a new job as a forklift driver in Huntington Beach. And this one after, his military discharge, it was 2 years earlier, he enrolled at Long Beach State University, majoring in education to further his career prospects. He's wanting to be a teacher.
Right. I think one of his sisters was a teacher, so they thought, well, he's taking in the footsteps of her, and they were all proud of him again.
Yep. And that was.
If you think about it, he's already got a degree in economics.
Yeah.
So now he's come back to school.
So it was there that Randy became acquainted with a guy named Jeff Graves.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a fellow teaching student from Minnesota. He was 4 years younger than Randy.
Yeah. And
they began a relationship.
That's right.
Yeah. So Dale, we're moving up a little bit more. And this is on, I'm going to scroll on down. First victim.
Okay.
I'm going to skip this paragraph right here. It talks about, this is just a summary of some of the stuff he done. All right, Dale, we're moving up to October the 5th of 1971.
Alrighty.
And this is when police found a nude body. It was a 30-year-old Long Beach resident named Wayne Joseph Duquette.
Right.
And this body was discarded close to the Ortega Highway. And Duquette was a bartender at a gay bar named The Stable in nearby Sunset Beach. And he had last been seen alive on September the 20th. But because of putrefaction had destroyed any signs of foul play on the body, the cause of death was listed as acute alcohol poisoning.
That's because the only thing they could find was his alcohol level, I believe.
Yeah.
So that's like, okay.
That's right. So I'm not going to mention the scorecard yet.
Okay.
Now, it was 15 months later, after the murder of Duquette, Randy killed a 20-year-old Marine named Edward Daniel Moore. Now, Moore was last seen leaving the barracks at Camp Pendleton on December the 24th, 1972. And his body was found by the 405 freeway in Seal Beach during the early hours of December the 26th. Now, there were abrasions on Moore's body, and they indicated that he'd been pushed from a moving vehicle.
Hmm.
And an autopsy revealed that he had been bound at the wrists and ankles.
Right.
And then beaten with a blunt instrument about the face before being garroted. Man, and his body exhibited numerous bite marks. And the weird thing about it was he had a sock that had been forced up into his rectum.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
No.
Mm-mm.
No.
Yeah. And 6 weeks after the murder of Moore, this was on February the 6th of 1973, the body of an unidentified male, estimated age would be between 17 and 25. He was found alongside the Terminal Island Freeway in Wilmington. Now, the victim had been strangled with a ligature, and he had also had a sock inserted up into his rectum.
Okay.
So this is some connecting stuff.
It's pretty bad. Pretty rough.
Yeah. And it was 2 months later. Now, it was 2 months later, on April the 14th, the body of a 17-year-old. His name was Kevin Clark Bailey, and he was found beside a road in Huntington Beach. And Bailey had been emasculated and sodomized prior to his murder.
Right, which means he'd basically been castrated.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, by July the 28th, a further 2 victims had been murdered, and an unidentified youth whose dismembered body was found in Wilmington on April the 22nd, and a 20-year-old named Ronnie Jean Weeb,
Yes.
whose strangled body was discarded on an on-ramp of the 405 freeway on July the 30th.
Right.
And 2 days after he had disappeared. Welt marks on Weeb's wrist and ankle suggested he'd been bound and suspended before his murder.
Yeah. And a lot of this sounds pretty rough, but it's way, way worse than you can think.
Yeah.
Like one of the John Does that they found had found near Huntington Beach. He had been basically dismembered or castrated and cut up and impaled and all this other stuff too. And then actually they had found one that they think he was tortured pretty bad, and then like they thought he was I don't know how they know all. I guess maybe, I don't know, because he never admitted nothing, so I don't know how they know this stuff. But they say like the guy he was going to castrate him, but he was still alive and he didn't want to look, and the guy was squirming trying to get away, so he ended up cutting off his eyelids to make him watch himself be castrated before he was killed.
Yeah.
So this guy's pretty damn vicious right off the bat,
Very gruesome.
and he's just going up and up and up with every murder.
Oh, he's ramping up on every one of them.
Yeah. So it's pretty damn bad, and I guess you can do a deep dive if you want to know all the gory details, but we'll give you what we can here. But yeah, it's pretty rough.
Now, Randy is also known to have killed at least once more in 1973, and the victim was a 23-year-old bisexual art student. His name was Vincent Cruz Mestis,
Right.
whose body was found in the San Bernardino Mountains on December the 29th. And as with several previous victims, one of the victim's socks had been forced into his rectum.
Right, just like Ron Wiebe was as well.
Yeah. And another crazy thing about this, his hands had been severed from his body, and they were never found.
Yeah, and a lot of these guys got bite marks all over them, all over their chest, bite marks on their penis. I mean, some of them hung upside down, and most of them so far have had a sock inserted into their anus.
Yes. Now, by November the...
Wait a minute. Vincent Moss is the one that had a pencil-sized object stuck in his dick.
Okay, we'll go ahead. And also...
Oh yeah, and also another thing, Vincent, is it Mestis? I can't read my own writing. Yeah, Vincent Mestis. You know, his the one that his hands were severed and never found. He also had a pencil-sized object rammed up into his penis.
Man.
And they think this is before he was dead.
Can't even imagine, dude.
No, dude. I mean, just what the hell?
Why?
Yeah, what are you getting out of this?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And by November of 1974, 5 more victims had been found beside or close to major roadways in Southern California, 3 of whom had been conclusively linked to the same killer.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 of these victims, there was a 20-year-old Malcolm Eugene Little and a 19-year-old James Dale Reeves. Each had been found beside a freeway with foreign objects inserted in their bodies. Whereas the 3rd victim, there was a 19-year-old Marine, his name was Roger Edward Dickerson, bore evidence of bite marks much like the other victims.
Yeah.
Yeah, around the
Malcolm
nipples.
Little had a stick rammed at least 6 inches into his anus.
Yeah, some kind
Rectum.
of
Stick.
yeah, stick. Yeah, I guess he found the stick on the side of the road or something, just ran it up in him. Yeah, man. Now, on January the 3rd, 1975, Randy abducted and murdered a 17-year-old high school student named John Laris. Now, this young man was last seen boarding a bus in Long Beach, and his strangled body was found the following day, discarded at Sunset Beach with a foreign object protruding from his rectum.
Yeah, it was actually a wooden surveyor's stake that was actually had been hammered
Up into his rectum.
Yes.
Man.
A surveyor stick.
God. Now, there were drag marks along the beach close to where the body was found, suggested that 2 individuals had carried Lara's body into the water. And 2 weeks after the murder, on January the 17th, the body of a 21-year-old named Craig Jonitis, I think that's pretty how you pronounce his name, he was found discarded in the parking lot of the Golden Sails Hotel near Pacific Coast Highway and Loins Drive in Long Beach. Now, this Jonitis had been strangled to death with some type of string or something, possibly a shoelace. That's what they were saying. So by January of 1975, Dale, there were a total of 14 victims whose body had been found discarded along 4 separate counties over the previous 3 years. They had been linked to the same killer. And all the victims had been Caucasian males with similar physical characteristics. Because this Randy Kraft, he had a certain type that he liked.
I guess.
Yeah. Now, it was on January the 24th, homicide investigators from several jurisdictions in Southern California, they met in Orange County to discuss the progress in hunt for this unknown killer. And an FBI profile of the killer was read to investigators, describing the individual as a methodical, organized lust killer of above average intelligence who exhibited an indifference to the interest of welfare of society. Yeah. And there were some investigators believed the murders to be the work of more than one individual, one or more who had a military background, as 2 victims had paper tissue residue in their nostrils.
Right.
Now, this was a procedure known to be used in the military to prevent bodies from purging after death.
Right. And so is they also say that the sock thing could have been for that.
Yeah.
Because, like a lot of these have been found on the side of the road and thrown from moving cars. So that's what I kind of think, at first. Well, I mean, the first few of them anyway, not the sticks and stuff, but like the socks. So if he did whatever he was going to do to somebody and then he was taken to basically get rid of the body, he would put them in their car and drive down the road and throw them out the window. And I guess or not the window, but I guess he'd have to open that door. Hell, I don't know how you do it, throw them from a moving car or person.
Open the door and sling them out.
Yeah. But to keep the body from purging in this car.
Yeah.
That would make sense.
It would,
to
yeah.
why he would be doing that.
Yeah. So we're moving up to March the 29th of 1975, and this is when Randy Kraft lured 2 young men. Their names were Keith Crotwell and Kent May. They were from Long Beach, and they were in a parking lot, and they were lured into his Ford Mustang.
Right.
And these 2 young men were given beer and Valium.
Yeah, he told them and asked them if they want to go for a ride, and just took them riding around up the road and had that hot rod car, black and white Mustang. I'd like to see a photo of that car.
Yeah.
Just see what it looked like. But anyway, they went riding around for a while, and then he actually came back to the bar and let one of them out.
Mm-hmm.
And which was pretty weird to me. And then the other one was kind of out of it, but they knew something was going. They was riding around drinking, and he was giving them pills, and they could tell they were getting, starting to pass out or whatever. And one guy wanted to go back to the bar, so he took him out, let him out, and the other guy was already out, so he just took off and took him with him.
Yes, he did. So on May the 8th, Crotwell's skull was found on a jetty. What is a jetty?
It's a thing at the water to keep like a bunch of rocks to make a smooth place, inlet kind of thing.
Okay, yeah. So let me back up. Now on May the 8th, Keith Crotwell's skull was found on a jetty close to Long Beach Marina.
Yeah, there were a couple of kids out looking for starfish.
Yeah.
And they come up and found this guy's head.
Can you imagine?
No.
Out walking, looking for stuff, and there's a human head.
Man, I freak out if I walk up on a snake. I think I'm walk up on something that devious would flip me out.
Yeah. So after hearing this news, two friends of Crotwell and May, who suspected that the murderer was a patron of Belmont Shore gay bar, they searched their neighborhood for this distinctive Mustang that you were talking about.
Right.
And they found the car less than a mile from their home, and they wrote down the license plate number.
Right. You know, check that out now. Those people, these are kids at the bar.
Yes.
And what they did is they walked their town street by street.
Yeah, up and down.
And then they found that car sitting in the driveway. I mean, on their own, because they knew something was going on, you know, and this car is, you know, real car, distinctive. This real distinctive car that, you know, they knew it, so they took it on themselves to find it, and they damn found it.
Yeah, and it was registered to Randy Kraft.
Yeah. Here we go. We've got him again.
Yeah. So the Long Beach police, they questioned Randy about Crotwell's abduction and murder on May the 19th of 1975. And initially, he denied ever meeting Crotwell or May. And the police, they were skeptical of Randy's denial, and they summoned him to the police station for further question.
Right.
And Randy admitted that on or about March the 29th that he had encountered two young men on Long Beach parking lot in question and persuaded them to drink some alcohol and consume some Valium. And they drove around with him.
Yep.
And he claimed to have returned May to the parking lot and then had driven with Crotwell to the side of the road close to the El Toro off-ramp, where his car subsequently became embedded upon an embankment. And he claimed to have walked along to a gas station to call a tow truck.
Yeah.
While this Crotwell remained with the car. And when he got back to the vehicle, Randy claimed that this Crotwell just disappeared.
Yeah.
Walked off.
So he basically admitted to it, but he said when he went to go call for a tow truck, and also he called his boyfriend, what was his name, Gray.
Yeah.
He called him too, you know, and had him supposedly come and meet him there, and when he got back, the guy was gone. So he made up a pretty little story there. Now, they did go check where he said the car was, and there was a place there. And I've heard several different things where it was like loose gravel or loose dirt or an embankment, whatever it was. Supposedly his car had gotten stuck there. But there was a place there where actually it could have happened. So it kind of checked out in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And even when they asked Gray, he also said that the story was, he confirmed the story.
Yes, he did. But perhaps because he had been questioned as a suspect in Crotwell's murder and because of additional turmoil in his personal life in that summer of 75, Kraft is not known to have killed again until at least December the 31st.
That probably scared him a little bit. That's close.
Yeah, that shook him, especially getting called in for questioning.
Oh, you know, some of them kids that found your car, know you are, take you in for questioning. You got to come up with a story, which is a pretty good story. And they kind of got it to check out, so they probably still looking at him, so he's kind of lay low for a while.
Yeah, so that December the 31st, that's when he abducted a 22-year-old. His name was Mark Hall, and this was in San Juan Capistrano. In this instance, later described by the prosecutors, this was as the worst of all of Randy's known murders. This is when Hall was driven to a remote canyon where he was bound to a tree. And the autopsy report listed the cause of death as asphyxiation caused by leaves and just some dirt and stuff from the ground lodged into his throat and trachea.
Yeah.
And the autopsy revealed that Hall had been sodomized and emasculated with his severed genitals inserted into his rectum.
So on this one, he cut off his stuff and crammed it up his own rectum.
Yes.
Yeah.
And additionally, his chest, scrotum, nose, and cheeks had been burned off with an automobile cigarette lighter, which was also used to destroy his eyes.
Yeah, burn his eyes out with a cigarette lighter.
Man. And the autopsy report also listed numerous incisions on Hall's legs, which had been inflicted with a broken bottle.
Damn.
And forensic experts were also to determine that Hall had been alive through much of this ordeal. He he witnessed all this stuff happening to him, man.
Mm.
I can't even imagine the torture.
No.
It's like he got off on the pain they were going through.
Right. Something's going on.
So by 1976...
Wait a minute. Which one? Who was that? Hall?
Yeah.
Oh, did we already pass James Rivas? Hell yeah. Oh yeah, Hall's way down here. Rivas is the one that had that 4-foot long tree branch crammed up his ass. But I don't remember saying that.
It wasn't listed. What was his last name?
Reeves. James Dale Reeves. He was right before the surveyor state guy. I guess it don't matter. It was November 27, 1974.
Yeah. Yeah,
He skips a bunch of people on this. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm trying to figure out where was that now. Trotwell.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Hall, I think you were.
Okay, let's see. Yeah. Okay, we're getting into his relationship with Jeff Seelig. All right. So by 1976, Randy Kraft had ended his relationship with Graves. And shortly thereafter, he got into another relationship. This was with a 19-year-old apprentice baker. His name was Jeff Seelig. And they moved to Laguna Hills. Although neither man was inclined towards monogamy, they was keeping their relationship open.
Right.
And the couple considered their relationship permanent too. But Seelig later told investigators that he and Randy regularly would pick up and proposition hitchhikers who, if willing, would accompany them to their apartment for a threesome. However, Seelig was adamant that Randy had never been violent towards him and had never seen any displays of violent tendencies.
Well, no, because if he had seen it, he wouldn't be talking to you.
Exactly. Now, Randy's relationship with Seelig is believed to be a contributing factor in the sudden lull in murders that he'd been known to commit. He is not known to have killed again until December the 10th of 1976. And the body of the victim, 19-year-old Joseph Paul Fuchs, has never been found. Nonetheless, Fuchs' name is clearly lit. Well, I ain't gonna talk about that. We ain't gonna get into the scorecard yet.
Okay.
We'll do that when they find the scorecard. All right. Now, following the December 76 murders of... I'm going to start that over. Wait a minute. I'm going to start right here. Now, Randy's relationship with Seelig is believed to be a contributing factor in the sudden lull in murders he is known to have committed. He is not known to have killed again until December the 10th of 1976. The body of the victim, his 19-year-old Joseph Fuchs, was never found. Yeah. And we'll explain why in just a little bit. Why some of these were found and some weren't, and what's going on with all this. We'll fill in some of these holes.
Okay.
Now, following the December 76 murder of Fuchs, Randy is not known to have killed again for at least 16 months. This is on January the 3rd of 1977. This is on January 3rd of 1978. Homicide investigators, again, they got together to discuss this progress, looking for this unidentified killer.
It's crazy, ain't it?
Yeah, by this time, investigators knew there was more than one murderer at large. The police, this one, they arrested a guy by the name of Patrick Kearney, who was subsequently confessed to the murder of 28 boys and young men, many of whom he had dissected and discarded in trash bags.
Right, he was known as the trash bag killer.
Yes, he was. Although Kraft dismembered some of his victims, he had never killed his victims by shooting them in the temple like Kearney had.
Right.
And additionally, this Kearney, or Kearney, I'm not sure how you pronounce his last name, had never tortured any of his victims. He just, just molested them and then shot them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So on April the 16th of 1978, Randy abducted an 18-year-old Marine. His name was Scott Michael Hughes. And Hughes was filled with Valium before Randy slit open his scrotum and removed one of his testicles. Yeah. Then strangled him to death with a ligature before discarding his fully clothed body. And he was missing only his shoelaces. And he was found beside a freeway on-ramp in Anaheim. Now, 2 months later, on June the 11th, the body of 23-year-old Roland Gerald Young was found near a San Diego freeway. And Young had been emasculated.
Yep.
Before being stabbed to death.
He's all into cutting some scrotum and penis off.
He is. And abrasions to his body indicated that he'd been pushed from a vehicle traveling at a high speed. And 8 days later, the body of a 20-year-old Marine, his name was Richard Allen Keith, was found discarded on a roadway on Moulton Parkway. He had last been seen alive by his girlfriend in the city of Carson. And there were welts on Keith's wrist that indicated he had been bound before he had been strangled with a ligature.
Yeah. You know, it blows my mind how many of these are Marines and then that they weren't able to overpower him.
Yeah. But you know, he's some of these
smooth.
Some of these are Marines, and some of these killings are around holidays.
Yeah. A lot of them.
Yeah.
They're very vulnerable. And they probably just go off and then he just gives them the beer or whatever they're drinking and high amounts of sedative, so they probably don't really have much of a chance once he pounces.
Yeah.
He gets them really messed up.
Yeah. Now, there were 3 weeks after the murder of Keith. This was on July the 6th. Kraft killed a 23-year-old hitchhiker. His name was Keith Arler Klingbeil. I guess that's how you pronounce his name. But this Klingbeil had ingested large doses of acetaminophen and alcohol before he was strangled with his shoelaces and his body discarded beside Interstate 5 freeway.
Yeah, now they said they found him. He was still alive when they found him, but he died shortly thereafter.
He did.
Yeah.
He died at Mission Community Hospital. And there was an autopsy that was done, and it revealed that it was strangulation. His left nipple had been seared with an automobile cigarette lighter.
He's all about the left side, too, isn't he?
He is.
Left nipples, left nuts cut off. I mean, he's even biting some of the nipples off.
God. Can't even imagine, man.
No, I mean, this dude done some rough stuff. I mean, we skipped a lot of stuff, you know, whatever. But, I mean, some of these people even had, like, tree limbs crammed up their rectum. I mean, tree limbs, like 4 foot long, 3 inches across.
Yeah. Rammed up the rear end.
Come on, man.
Yeah. I mean, you can take a deep dive into this stuff, and you can read all the court reports and stuff.
And the gore.
Yeah, if you're into that stuff.
Yeah.
We're just
giving the story.
Covering it very loosely.
Yeah.
Yeah. The last known victim murdered by Randy in 1978 was a 21-year-old Long Beach truck driver. His name was Michael Joseph Emberdeaton. I guess Enderbyton.
Yeah, Enderbyton.
Enderbyton, whose castrated body was found on an on-ramp to the I-605 on November 18th, 1978.
Yeah, he was tortured pretty much.
Yeah, he'd been castrated, and he'd been violated with a foreign object and suffered similar burns to the other guys.
He burned his eyelids off with a cigarette lighter.
Man.
Stuffed unspecific objects into his rectum, castrated, and then fatally suffocated.
Yeah, this Kraft is a bad dude, man.
He is, man.
Yeah. But Randy is not known to have killed again until June the 16th of 1979. This when he abducted a 21-year-old Marine named Donnie Harold Crissell, whose body was thrown from a moving vehicle on the 405 freeway.
He was also burned with a cigarette lighter and strangled and killed by alcohol and drug poisoning.
Yes.
And then chunked.
Yeah, he'd been tortured pretty bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, 2 months later, this was on August the 29th, the dismembered remains of a 21-year-old English tourist. His name was Keith Anthony Jackson. And these remains were found discarded in 2 trash bags and a cardboard box behind a Union 76 gas station in Long Beach. And his sock had been found inserted into his rectum.
Mm-hmm.
And only Jackson's head, torso, and leg were never found. And Jackson had been deceased for several days prior to the discovery of his body. Man.
This dude.
Yep. And it was 2 weeks later. Man, he don't...
No, there's no cool down here. But
no, 2 weeks later, this was on September the 14th, there was a body of a 19-year-old Gregory Wallace Jolly was found at Lake Arrowhead.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he had been emasculated, and his head and legs had been severed after his death.
And his hands.
Yes. And his possessions were later found in Randy's home.
Mm.
Yeah. So, just a couple months later, on November the 24th, 1979, there was a 15-year-old Santa Ana boy named Jeffrey Sayre is believed to have been abducted and murdered by Randy. And he was last seen at a bus stop in Westminster. And while returning home from a date with his girlfriend, the bus stop Sayre was last seen at was near the home of Randy's parents. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, that fella, I think he went to see his girlfriend, and then they'd got in an argument, and he just hitchhiking back home.
And Randy
or
picked
back
him
to the base, and Randy got him.
Yeah, picked him up and probably said, "I got some beer. You want to hang out?"
Yeah, I'll give you a ride, whatever.
Yeah. So
he was a very charismatic guy.
Yeah.
He was a smooth talker, apparently. I mean, he
Evidently.
all these people he got, some beer and volumes.
Yeah. But look at the pictures of Randy. They don't look intimidating.
No, at all.
Mm-mm. But on February the 18th of 1980, the decapitated body of a 19-year-old Marine, his name was Mark Allen Marsh, and he was found near the Templin Highway. And Marsh was last seen hitchhiking toward Buena Park.
Yeah.
Near Buena Park. His hands had been severed from his body after death.
Yep. And an unspecified object was also crammed into his rectum. He was decapitated.
Man. Sick.
Yep.
So, Randy's changing up a little bit right here going into 1980. He traveled to neighboring state of Oregon on a business trip.
Mm-hmm.
And during this trip, he lived in a town close to Portland. And before returning to California in August, he is believed to have murdered 2 more victims, both of whom... Well, start that over. Now, going into 1980 deal, Randy is changing things up a little bit. He has to go on a work trip to Oregon.
Yeah, you got to remember he's got a really lucrative job here. He's making good money, and he's not just Mr. Killer. He's living a semi-normal life, depending on who knows what's going on.
Yeah, you even found a picture of his house online, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a really nice house.
Yeah, going to work, making good money, and then still doing all this stuff. So when he got the expense account and was doing a lot of traveling for work, I just gave him more easy to spread it out a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had a reason to go.
Yeah, so he went to Oregon, and it was believed that he'd killed 2 near the town of Portland before returning to California in August.
Yeah, probably more than that, actually. I mean, one, Michael O'Fallon, he was found hogtied with shoestrings and then had a knotted cord tied around his scrotum.
Yeah.
He had been sodomized.
Yep. Can't even imagine, man.
Drugged, sodomized, strangled, and then hogtied.
Yeah.
Well, probably hogtied before strangled, I guess.
Yeah, and he was giving them Valium and Tylenol and...
Whatever he had.
Yeah, pretty much whatever he had, yeah. So in September of 1980, it was 1 month after Randy's return to California from Oregon, the body of a 19-year-old Marine named Robert Logans was found discarded in a trash bag close to the El Toro Marine Air Base. Now, this Logans had been last seen alive by 2 fellow Marines close to the Pacific Coast Highway on August the 23rd. And photographs and negatives subsequently found at Randy's home showed logging in Kraft's living room. He's fully clothed but slumped, sort of leaning over on his arm.
So he could be dead or not.
Yeah, or drunk, passed out, or whatever.
Never, we don't know.
Yeah. But all these pictures depict Logan with his eyes closed.
Right.
So it's really, like I said, it's not known whether he's alive or dead. Now, on April the 10th of 1981, the body of a 17-year-old, his name was Michael Cluck, was found beside the I-5 freeway close to Goshen, Oregon. And Cluck had been abducted while hitchhiking from Kent, Washington to Bakersfield, California.
Yeah.
And the day prior to his body being discovered, there were 31 blunt force blows to the head had destroyed the back of his skull.
Yeah, he'd been sodomized and bludgeoned over 31 times, dude.
Man.
It's like a lot of rage, dude.
It is. Seems like a lot of rage. And we'll discuss that at the end, too, because there's some theories on why he had this rage.
I got you.
And it was 4 months after Cluck's murder. This is on August the 20th of 1981. There was a partially clothed body of a 17-year-old male prostitute. His name was Christopher Allen Williams, and he was found in the San Bernardino Mountains. And Williams had ingested both phenobarbital and benzodiazepine.
Attaboy.
And was found with tissue paper lodged into his nostrils, causing him to choke on his own mucus.
Yeah, basically like pneumonia.
Yeah.
Man, he's rough, dude. Like, in that one guy that he killed, that was left, that he tortured pretty bad and was left with his legs spread and so his genitals had been removed and everything. He just crammed a bunch of dirt down his throat and basically make him suffocate him.
Yeah.
On dirt.
He has no regard for human life at all.
No.
So by early 1982, the relationship Randy had with this Jeff Seelig had gotten into some trouble. They had frequent fights and episodes of temporary separation. And in an effort to, I guess, to resolve their personal differences, they started attending some counseling sessions there in Huntington Beach.
Boy, if they only knew.
Yeah. I mean, their fights has nothing to... is a backseat to Randy's killings and stuff, yeah. But following complaints from the residents there, they would hear them fussing and everything. The residents also complained about an odor emanating from the direction of the Hollywood freeway. This was on July the 29th in 1982. And a Caltrans employee found the decaying body of a 14-year-old. And his name was Raymond Davis, and it was discarded along the Rampart Boulevard off-ramp. And there were efforts had been made to conceal Davis's body beneath some leaves and brush and stuff. And he had last been seen alive in Echo Park on June the 17th. And this is when he was searching for his missing dog. But his wrist had been knotted behind his back in much the same manner as the victim of that's Michael O'Fallon that we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
And he'd been strangled to death with his shoelaces, and it was just terrible.
Man, this is rough.
Yeah. And then also he had another victim as a 16-year-old named Robert Avila. Yeah. And his body had been missing. Well, he had been missing since July the 21st, and his body also was pretty decomposed. He had been strangled to death
With speaker wire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just whatever he can find.
Whatever he's using, yeah. And there was a lot of talk about piano wire earlier on, about what he used, because they could see the faint, the outline around the ankles and stuff. And I guess piano wire must be easier to find some places. I've never seen it anywhere, but there's a lot of people talk about it.
But Randy is not known to have killed again until November the 1st of 1982. This when he abducted and murdered a 24-year-old Modesto, California man. His name was Arnie Michael Lane. And Lane was last seen hitchhiking toward Orange County in search of work. And his body was not found until January of 1984. and it was discarded on a hillside close to the town of Ramona. And 4 weeks after Lane's murder, there was a semi-nude body of a 26-year-old. His name was Brian Witcher. Was dumped from a moving vehicle along the I-5 freeway close to the city of Wilsonville, Oregon.
Just think about all these bodies, man.
Yeah, and Witcher he'd ingested high levels of alcohol and Valium, but it seemed to he had died of asphyxiation. Yeah, it's just constant. He was a killing machine.
Yeah,
definitely. Now, on December the 3rd of 1982, a 29-year-old carpenter named Randy Jose Silveira, I guess these are some tough names.
Yeah.
He disappeared while hitchhiking toward Medford. His body was found 2 weeks later, strangled, sodomized, and violated with some kind of foreign object.
It was a red plastic toothbrush.
Wow.
Is what it was.
Do you think he just found a toothbrush, or he just, I'm going to take this with me? And
I don't know.
But at the time of the murders of both Witcher and Silveira, Randy was again known to have been in Oregon on a business trip, which concluded the day of Silveira's death. And on December the 4th, Randy drove from Portland, Oregon to Seattle, Washington to visit some friends. And during this brief visit, he was observed wearing a military jacket inscribed with the name of Silveira.
Yeah.
He was wearing this guy's jacket.
Wearing the guy's jacket.
So on December the 5th, Randy flew from Seattle to Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Yeah, supposedly on a business trip for a while.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it was 2 days after he got to Grand Rapids, Michigan. Randy ran into a couple guys that were cousins.
Yeah.
They were Dennis and Christopher Schoenborn.
Well, Dennis Alt and Christopher Schoenborn.
Okay, Dennis Alt and Christopher Schoenborn.
Right. Schoenborn, yeah.
Yeah. And while Randy was there at a seminar at the Amway Grand Plaza Hotel, he is seen talking to these cousins at the hotel reception area shortly before midnight. And their bodies were discovered on December the 9th.
Yeah, and they were left posed in some awkward sexual positions.
Yes.
And then it was later found that Christopher Schoenborn had actually had a ballpoint pen crammed into his penis, and they're thinking he was alive when this happened.
God.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Man. This dude is just a torturing, killing machine.
But there was a set of keys belonging to Schoenborn plus Silveira's military jacket that were left by Randy in the hotel.
Yeah, getting sloppy in there.
He is. I think he's just believing that he's just invincible and can't be caught because he's doing so much. So on December the 8th, Randy traveled from Michigan back to Portland. And within 24 hours of his return to Oregon, he'd killed a 19-year-old hitchhiker named Lance Taggs. And Taggs was last seen hitchhiking from the city of Tigard to the home of a relative in Los Angeles on December the 8th.
And he actually had a sock shoved down his throat.
He did.
Yeah. So I guess he's suffocating that way.
Yeah.
And then just watch him.
Going from the sock from the rectum to the throat.
He swapped ends.
He did. So the connection of murders to all this, noting the passage of time between periods of activity when the bodies of these were found discarded near... I ain't going to read all that shit.
Okay.
So in 1983, Randy did not kill again until January the 27th of 1983. This when he abducted a 21-year-old hitchhiker named Eric Church. And this victim was last seen alive hitchhiking from Orange County to Sacramento. And the day before his... Let me start that over. Let me just read all that over. I'm trying to put on my words, but...
Okay.
All right. Now, Randy did not kill again until January 27th of 1983. This is when he abducted a 21-year-old hitchhiker. His name was Eric Church. And he was last seen alive hitchhiking from Orange County to Sacramento the day before his murder. And his body was found discarded along the I-605. And when they done an autopsy, it was concluded that Church had consumed a lot of alcohol and Valium, and he had been sodomized. Rope marks on his wrist indicated he had struggled against the restraints before he died of a combination of ligature strangulation and in numerous blows to the side of his skull. It was inflicted by some type of blunt object.
You know, it's crazy how nothing's ever the same, is it?
No.
I mean, he might take part of this and do part of that. You know, it's either severe, blunt force traumas or sodomized or strangles, or, I mean, it's all kind of, he's all over the place.
Yeah. It seems like he does a little thing, changes up a little thing here and there for his sexual gratification.
Or something, yeah.
Yeah. So on February the 12th, Randy killed 2 Buena Park men. It was 18-year-old Jeffrey Nelson and 20-year-old Roger Duvall. These 2 young men were last seen outside the house of a friend named Bryce Wilson shortly after midnight when they told Wilson they intended to purchase something to eat.
Yeah.
And Nelson's nude body was found along an off-ramp close to Garden Grove Freeway.
Yeah, and both of these guys were castrated, sodomized, and strangled to death.
Yeah.
Both of them.
Man. But the stomachs of both victims contained potato skins and grapes, which had been eaten shortly before their murders.
So he must have bought them something to eat. And
Yeah.
Mm.
So they were moving up to May the 14th of 1983. This was at 1:10 a.m. And this is when 2 California Highway Patrol officers, CHIPs.
Wait, not 1983. Is it?
May the 14th, 1983.
Okay, I don't know why I'm thinking. I was thinking it was way later than that.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
All right, they were moving up to May the 14th of 1983. It's at 1:10 p.m., and this is when 2 California Highway Patrol officers, CHIPs, I guess it was John and Ponch.
Oh.
Yeah.
Bow, 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 bow.
But this is when they observed a Toyota Celica that was kind of driving erratically on the I-5 in Orange County near Mission Viejo. And this is when they observed the vehicle perform an illegal lane change, which I don't know exactly what that means, but it was something that wasn't supposed to do.
Right.
I don't know if he didn't turn his turn signals on when he moved lanes or what, but this one the officers suspecting the motorist was driving under the influence.
Correct.
And they signaled for the vehicle to stop. And the driver slowed the vehicle to a halt and exited the car, discarding the contents of a beer bottle onto the pavement as he did so. So, yeah, you got me. I'm pouring this out.
Get out, pouring this beer out.
Yeah. So this is when Officer Michael Sterling met with this individual who identified himself as Randy Kraft. And at the front of the patrol car, and he observed that his jeans were unbuttoned.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they did a sobriety test on Kraft, which he failed.
Yes.
He then arrested Randy for driving while intoxicated. And during this time, Sterling's partner, his name was Sergeant Michael Howard, he had approached this Toyota Celica. And Dale, this is when he observed a young man that was slumped in the vehicle with his eyes closed in the passenger seat.
Right.
And he was partially covered by some type of jacket. And also there were several empty Moosehead beer bottles and an open prescription bottle of lorazepam tablets that were, I guess, strewn around his feet around the floorboard.
Mm.
And this is when the officer attempted to wake the young man. And he didn't get any kind of response, so he attempted to rouse him by shaking his arm, only to note that he had a low body temperature.
Yeah.
And he checked the pulse, and he noted that the man was dead.
Yeah.
And he also had a ligature mark that was visible around his neck.
Yeah, and his pants was down around his knees.
Yes. He'd moved the jacket. That's when he noticed he was nude from the waist down.
Yes.
And in addition to his hands had been bound with shoelace, and his wrist bore evidence of welt marks.
Mm-hmm.
And later described, he was identified as Terry Lee Gambrell. He was a 25-year-old Marine stationed at El Toro Air Base, and he had been strangled to death.
Yeah, it said when they pulled him over that Randy goes, "So how's my buddy doing over there?" He said, which made the cop just blood run cold when he said that, when he realized what was going on. And there was an open pocket knife laying there, so they're thinking that what he was doing was trying to castrate him while he's driving down the road and while he crossed lanes, drinking beer.
What a party.
That's what they're thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, he's just sick.
Yeah, sick. Sick ain't the word. This is way.
Yeah. So yeah, this guy. I mean,
this is just the high spots. We've skipped a lot of people's names. Today.
Yeah, we're going to talk about some of this other stuff too. But Randy was initially charged with driving under the influence of alcohol, and was being held in custody as detectives conducted a thorough search of his vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
And upon the car's rear seat, investigators found a belt, the width of which matched the bruising around Gambrell's neck.
Right, so he had choked him out with his own belt.
Yeah.
Is basically what he did.
And other incriminating evidence retrieved included alcohol, tranquilizers, various prescription drugs, and stimulants. The passenger seat and carpet of the vehicles were heavily bloodstained. However, Gambrell had no open wounds. The upholstery was removed for forensic analysis, which confirmed the blood was human.
Mm-hmm.
And beneath the carpet, the investigators discovered an envelope containing 50 more photographs of young men in pornographic poses. Many of the subjects in the pictures appeared to be asleep or dead.
Mm.
Also, inside the trunk, investigators found a ring binder containing handwritten list of 61 coded notations.
Mm.
Yeah, and I'd heard that they had found this note under the floor mat.
Yeah, that's what I'd heard too.
Yeah, so either way, they found a handwritten
scorecard.
Yeah, scorecard, what they called it.
Yeah.
And a search of Randy's home revealed further incriminating evidence, including clothes, personal possessions, and numerous young men who had been murdered over the previous decade.
Lots of trophies.
Yes. They were fibers taken from a rug matched those found on the victim of Scott Hughes. In addition, the couch in Kraft's living room was identified as being the one in the photograph found in Randy's car. There was also a roll of film discovered. It also contained shots of victims Eric Church, Roger Duvall, sitting in Kraft's car.
A roll of film. So where do you think he's getting these photos developed?
I don't know, unless he has a buddy that can develop film.
Because I thought first it may have been like Polaroids, but if they found a roll of film, it's not Polaroids.
So yeah, stuff you got to get developed.
Yeah,
you're just not going to drop
You're not going to drop that off to the film hood or whatever. You know, you used to have those, which a lot of people have no idea what that
photo
means.
mat, whatever.
Yeah, photo mat used to be everywhere. You just go roll up and drop a roll of film off in the envelope and come back in a couple of days and pick up your photos.
Yeah.
Man,
and it was a ligature mark that was clearly visible on the photographs on Duvall's neck and all those images.
Mm.
Yeah. Now this list that they found, it was 61 neatly printed terms and phrases on this piece of paper.
Yes.
And many of these entries...
61 you say, right?
61.
Right.
And many of them, these entries appear innocuous.
Right.
But each one of these entries is believed to refer to some kind of specific murder or double murder.
Yeah, so it's basically his scorecard.
Yes. And Randy was labeled the Scorecard Killer.
Right. So
because of this.
He had taken notes, well, not necessarily notes, but he kept up a list of everyone he killed and had a little code name. It didn't have anybody's actual name. It just had code name for each one that he killed.
Yeah, of where they were or something that was related
like
to
the
him.
very first one, Wayne Doucette or whatever. He was a bartender at the stable or whatever, and he was just listed stable, right?
Yeah, stable.
Yeah. And I think the next one was Edward Moore, and he just had whatever his three initials was. And, it could be either like 76 for like the fellow they found behind the 76 gas station.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. But there were 61 individual notes. And I think some of those 61 notes were double murders, so it could actually be more than that.
Could be, yeah. But kudos to these investigators and police officers for deciphering this stuff and figuring all this out, man.
But it took them long enough.
It did.
But if you think about stuff, that you don't know, that there was actually two other killers in the same area at the same time.
Yeah.
With big numbers. The Patrick Kearney you mentioned, who was, somewhere between 21 and 43 victims, they think. And then also William Bonin, or Bill Bonin, and he had killed somewhere between 21 to 36 or even more victims. And this is all in the same place.
The same area, yeah.
You think about it, that's a lot of people, man.
Yeah.
Hell, that could be close to 150 if you go top numbers.
Yeah.
Well over 100 easy. of people that were killed.
People just going missing.
Yeah. Damn.
But getting back to this scorecard, you're talking about double murders and stuff. The list also contained entries, indicating a minimum of 4 double murders. There was one listed as GR2, and this is believed to be in reference to the Grand Rapids cousins, Dennis Alt and Christopher Schoenborn.
Right.
So one entry could, like you said, be one or more victims.
Yeah, multiple people. So the 61 could be like the low side.
Yeah. Crazy. But investigators contended that 2 victims whose murders Kraft was convicted, Church and Gambrell, was not listed on the scorecard. However, since the list is in code, the possibility exists that Church in particular is included in the scorecard as an entry that investigators cannot recognize as referring to him.
Right.
And Gambrell may also be included on the list, although Kraft was arrested while he attempted to dispose of the body and may not have recorded him.
Right, not been on there yet.
Yeah, he wouldn't.
Had time to log it in,
Yeah.
per se, I guess.
I guess. Put it on a spreadsheet.
I guess log it in is not a good term in this.
No, it's not. But yeah, he had...
there was a bunch that they don't even know, it's like listings like Angel and Harikari and Marine Down and Van Driveway, and it just goes on and on. Diabetic, Portland, Navy White. And some of these may have been cleared up later, but it just go on and on. MC Plant, MC Dump, HB Short, England, Oil. It's just crazy. We'll
have a picture of this scorecard on our socials for everybody to look at.
Find a good clear one.
Yeah. But Randy's trial began on September the 26th, 1988, and he was tried in Orange County before Judge Donald McCartan. And at the trial, almost 160 witnesses were called in to testify on behalf of the prosecution, and over 1,000 exhibits were introduced as evidence. And they pretty much had a slam dunk on this guy.
Easy.
We're not going to go into the whole trial and stuff, but yeah, they pretty much had him dead to right.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Even though he's one of the rare type serial killers where he never really has admitted anything and hasn't bragged about nothing and hadn't talked about it at all.
No.
So that may be why he's a lesser known, because he's not braggadocious about what's going on. It's just, and still, I don't even know if he even says he ever did it.
But there was something during his conviction and the penalty phase. The Judge Donald A. McCartan, he had said something to Randy, and it's pretty ominous. He said, "To have something like this take place in our society, I think I've sent 8 or 9 individuals to their death in my courtroom before I can take all those aggravating circumstances in those other cases." And they I can't fucking read. He said, "To have something like this take place in our society, I think I've sent 8 or 9 individuals to their death in my courtroom before I can take all those aggravating circumstances in those other cases, and they don't match Mr. Kraft's record. I just can't comment. If anyone ever deserved the death penalty, he's got it coming."
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this is what Judge Donald A. McCartan said passing the death sentence upon Randy Kraft.
I can't imagine being in a courtroom, being a jury member or something, and have no idea what's going on, and then they drop all this on you.
Yeah.
It's just incredible.
He just likes killing for sexual satisfaction.
Something.
But on August 11th of 1989, the jury did render a verdict of death, and 3 months later, on November 29th, that's when Judge McCartan formally sentenced him to death. And as of 2024, Randy Kraft still remains on death row in San Quentin State Prison, and he continues to deny responsibility for any of the homicides he was convicted of or suspected of committing.
Right. And then when they actually had reached out to the FBI to get like a profile done, when they formed their task force looking for this guy, they said they thought it was like maybe it was a guy who was homosexual but didn't want to be homosexual and wanted to be masculine, and that was the reason he was castrating all these people, to make them more feminine or female, I guess.
Make them look female?
Yeah, and then biting the nipples off and burning them. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess that kind of makes sense in a way, but I don't know.
Yeah.
That's just what the professional opinion was. Their profile.
But that's how he got his name, the Scorecard Killer.
Yeah, he was keeping good notes.
Yeah, he was. That was his little, I guess how he just remembered it and reminisced on it.
Yeah. And plus he kept a damn trophy from everybody, but he kept his list with him.
Yeah. It was also believed, Dale, that the prosecution, well, they believed that Randy's former lover, this Jeff Graves, may have assisted him in several of the murders.
Well, I guess they get the idea when they seen the two footprints, at the one place, and then the other kid where he said he had actually called his roommate to come help him get his car unstuck, and he said he actually went, and this kind of, so he admitted to involvement there, but not for a killing or something, just to go help him get his car. So basically was saying he was there, but I mean, I guess I could see that because I guess they figured a lot of this couldn't be done by one person.
Very true.
But I don't know.
But they couldn't do anything with Graves because he had died of AIDS in July 27th of 1987.
Yes.
And at the time of his death, police had been preparing to question him further on this stuff.
Crazy.
Yeah. And there've been a few books written on this and several things, but there was a journalist, Dennis McGoogle. He wrote a book entitled Angel of Darkness.
Mm-hmm.
Wrote a book on this.
Yeah, and it kind of breaks it down to like basically after picking them up in his car, he would drug them or get them drunk, bind them, torture them by burning them with car cigarette lighters against their face, chest, or genitals, sexually abuse them, and kill them in various ways such as strangulation, asphyxiation, bludgeoning, or a combination of all in torture and drugs. He'd also castrate them, and he was like take photos of them and then impale them with stuff either up their rectum or up the penis.
Yeah.
And then some of them one was done with a swizzle stick, and it was with such force that it actually went all the way to the bladder.
Like a coffee stirrer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then cut that off, and then was castrated afterwards.
Man. But like I said, we airbrushed a lot of these victims. We didn't go into detail about all the bad things that happened to them.
Right.
But it's pretty gruesome.
It's rough.
Yeah. But Randy Kraft, man, he was a sick individual.
Very.
Yeah.
And he's still living.
I mean, we've done some others, like Richard Allen Chase, the vampire killer.
Sacramento vampire.
Yeah, and then Richard Ramirez, and we've done some bad dudes, but this one, I mean, he takes the cake.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, he's up there.
I believe if they made a movie about this, the more people knew about this guy, that Dahmer and some of them just wouldn't be as prolific.
No.
I mean, I know this guy wasn't eating anybody, but
No, but his actions.
It's pretty damn rough.
Yeah, the torture.
Yeah, that's bad. Bad.
Yeah. All right, dude, that is the story of Randy Steven Kraft. Serial killer.
Serial killer.
All right, bud, we're going to get out of here, man.
Whew, yeah, let's roll. I need to get out of here.
We want everyone to be safe. Please be careful and always be aware of your surroundings.
Because the next episode could be about you.
This is the Crack House Chronicles.